So I got a comment on TikTok asking me to talk about the Grimgar power system. And while I did answer that question on TikTok, it inspired me to make a video on YouTube. Keep in mind, this video is not going to touch on every little aspect of the power system, but I do want to talk about the world of Grimgar and how it affects the power system. Also, keep in mind that the power system is not the main focus of Grimgar, so it's not the most complicated thing like JJK or any of that stuff. However, power system does have some little bits of nuances to it that are pretty interesting. First off, the majority of the power system was more or less hidden away from the protagonist for a good amount of the books. And for me to explain that, I'm going to have to go into the world of Grimgar and how it feels like to be a new volunteer soldier in Grimgar. Bear with me, this is probably going to be a pretty long video, but I'm going to go into explaining how it feels like to be someone in Grimgar appearing for the very first time there, and then I'm going to talk about the overall power system. Before I do, please let me know if you guys enjoy the videos like this by hitting the like button, or let me know in the comments down below, or subscribing. When you wake up in Grimgar, your mind is completely erased. You don't know who you were from the previous life you were in, and you don't know anything about Grimgar. You just know about your name, you have a general understanding of your personality, and whatever skills you had in your past life, you do carry over to your new life. Say, are a martial arts master from your past life, or understand boxing very well, you carry that over to Grimgar. However, everything else is pretty much left behind. You are then greeted by people that tell you that you have to either become a volunteer soldier, heavy air quotes on volunteer, or fuck off and try your life living as a normal person in Alterna or outside of Alterna. Not many people have survived outside of Alterna after being brought to Grimgar with your mind erased, but some have. You are then introduced into the guilds of Alterna. These guilds will teach you how to survive in Alterna and fight monsters. These guilds are Thief, Warrior, Hunter, Dread Knight, Paladin, Priest, and Mage. There are other classes that you can learn outside of Alterna, and whether or not these classes are exclusive to specific races is not entirely known, and some of these classes can only be attained from being acknowledged by a specific group of people. Those being Samurai, which you can only become a Samurai if you are acknowledged by the Hidden Village, which, yes, it's an actual place in Grimgar. Blade Dancers, and basically nothing is known about Blade Dancers, but it sounds like a DPS class. Shaman, which is primarily used by goblins, which are basically a mix of mages and priests, so they can heal and use different forms of nature magic, like throwing swarms of bugs at you. Necromancers, which are a part of the Hidden Village, and all we really know about the Necromancers that makes them different is that they can use undead golems and undead creatures. From that point onward, you get to choose the classes that can only be taught in Alterna, and once you do become a volunteer soldier with these classes, and your squad goes out and kills monsters. Now, however you find your squad is entirely up to you. Certain characters like Moguzo joins a squad and they gets robbed for all of his stuff and left to die. And that's how originally Hadahiro and his team find Moguzo. You can also just get lucky and get stuck with people who you arrive to Grimgar with. You then are sent out to go kill monsters, and whatever loot these monsters have, you take back with you to sell to merchants in Alterna. These items are used for potions, spells, weapons, all that stuff. They just remake them into items that other people can use. They then pay you for those items. You then pay for food, lodging, and to learn skills in Alterna. The leaders of Alterna have done this on purpose because essentially, you as a volunteer soldier are a money-making machine for them. And you're also extremely expendable because they resummon more and more volunteer soldiers every couple months or so. It's not extremely clear how many these summon per month, but it is heavily implied that Alterna summons them, sends them out, they die, they summon more, they don't really care. You're also used as a secondary army just in case you have to fight a giant war like in Volume 3, and Alterna's entire economy is built off of volunteer soldiers and them dying, and them bringing money in, and them bringing more items. It's a whole loop. Basically, Alterna is very, very corrupt. We don't know why they're doing this necessarily other than money, and there's also heavily implied there's more to it than just that. But that is all I am aware of right now from Volume 15. The thing about Alterna is also that the guilds, a lot of the time, try to restrict the information flow of the volunteer soldier. They'll do stuff like tell thieves that they are not allowed to work together in a party, which is kind of like an unwritten rule. So this is why rarely you ever see two thieves work together in a party. People do break this rule here and there, but it's kind of uncommon. Why do they do this? Well, basically, if you decided to be a thief in a party with another thief, instead of having you both spend the amount of money it would take to buy one skill, you can both pool enough money to teach one of you to get a skill, and then the other one can teach the other person how to use that skill as well. It has been shown in the story that copying people's skills is not that difficult. Hadahiro and Ranta have both done this. When Hadahiro copied his teacher's ability to turn invisible, and Ranta copies Moguzo's warrior skill against Tokugashi in Volume 11. So the guild tries to limit this. Mage Guild and the Dread Knight Guild take it a step further, and the Mage Guild constantly tries to tell mages to not do anything that is not taught in the guild, because this could possibly cause them to get hurt, or their magic might get unstable. Later on in their story, we figure out that mages can stop in the middle of incantations and start another incantation to modify their magics. This is never taught in the guild, and is only something that you can learn after messing around with your magic. This is told to the characters in Volume 6. So when you mix your magic abilities, you can do stuff like use fireballs, stop in the middle of the incantation, use wind magic, and then make the fireball way stronger. You can also do stuff like make your explosion magic significantly stronger and add different elements to it depending on your incantation. This is insanely powerful and very dangerous, and the Mages Guild does not teach them any of this. Later on, Shihiru takes it a step further, starts to get this strange feeling that she can summon a small little avatar. She says that she feels like if she does this, she's going to lose all of her other magical abilities. Eventually, she does. However, it makes her dark spell significantly more powerful. Tiny little dark avatar can do so many different things that other mages can't do. It can be armor piercing, it can pin people down, it can turn into a giant black mist. It's very, very dangerous. And Shihiru only got this because she went against what was taught to her in the Mage Guild. And going back to the Dread Knights actually make their trainees sign a vow that, one, makes so you have to take a vow of chastity, which is odd, considering Dread Knights do whatever they want, whenever they want. That's their whole motto. And two, vow to never switch their class. If they do, their fellow Dread Knights will hunt them down and kill them. Now, whether or not the Dread Knights are trying to limit your ability to switch classes because switching classes in Grimgar is very overpowered is not really known. I think the Dread Knights are doing it because they're petty and they don't like having other people have Dread Knight powers that don't have the title of Dread Knight. But that's just something that I believe. I'm not 100% sure if that's the actual case. However, Dread Knights can learn other classes' skills as long as they don't change their class title, which is so stupid. And like I said earlier, switching classes in Grimgar is extremely overpowered. There is no actual limit aside from the Dread Knight that say you can't keep switching classes and learn all of the skills that are associated with those classes. As long as you have the money to switch classes, the money to buy the skills, you can essentially buy all of the skills that are able to be taught in Alterna. Certain characters in the story have switched classes at least once. Some, like this bitch, has done it somewhere around 4 or 5 times. And all of the skills you accumulate from previous classes get carried over to your new class, which is why it makes it so powerful. Skills that are taught in the guilds are also very, very flexible. Stuff like Exhaust, Ranta's ability to jump backwards and avoid damage, can be used to leap forward if his back is turned to the enemy, and he can turn himself into a flying missile. He does this in Volume 3 against the flying shaman goblins. This is an attack exclusive to Ranta because he's the only one dumb enough to actually try it. Also, one big thing that the story makes very clear is just because you learn a class and level up and practice in that class does not mean that you are going to be good at that class. Yume is never good at shooting arrows. She practices quite a lot, but she never gets really all that good at it. At one point, she basically just focuses on melee combat, and she gets very, very good at it. To the point where she decides to train for like 4 years to learn Kung Fu, and then she comes back later as a close-range badass. She can still use her bow, but primarily she's better at close range. Overall, the power system in Grimgar slowly changes and becomes different as the story goes along, and as the characters figure out things that they didn't know previously, Grimgar's power system is less about power and more about creativity. It's not to say there aren't powerful things in the power system itself, but it's better for you if you take these skills and use them creatively to come up with different abilities and power. The power system also gets more complicated once you go into different worlds. Yes, there are other worlds in Grimgar, and yes, they affect the power system differently. In all the worlds we have seen so far, you can still carry most of your powers over from Grimgar. The exceptions are the Dusk Realm, which makes it so you cannot use any god magic whatsoever, so no healing magic and no demon magic. So Mary and Ranta specifically had to focus heavily on his sword skill, and Mary had to use only her staff to bat monsters around. Then there is Derringer. Derringer has it where some god magic works in Derringer. So anything like healing takes twice the amount to actually do. And when Ranta uses his demon call, his demon is significantly weaker. Then there's Piranha. I fucking hate Piranha. Piranha adds an entire new power system on top of the Grimgar power system. So all of the powers that the characters had when they were in Grimgar, any of their melee skills, magics, healing magics, has a new layer of power on top of that. These powers are Fila, the most common magic in Piranha. Essentially, you can empower an item and can become stronger over time. Narcy, short for narcissist, essentially. I don't know why they call it narcissist. It's kind of rude because essentially it's self-confidence. If you have a lot of self-love or are very confident, your physical strength gets shot through the damn roof and you become your own form of magic. This is especially powerful for tanks like Kizaku. He got so strong to the point where him swinging his sword caused a giant air current like One for All in My Hero. Doppel, basically doppelganger, gives the person the ability to copy themselves. This power is only given to people who have low self-esteem or hate themselves. Each of your copies can have different magics depending on the magic that you brought to this world. So you can have a fire magic, and if your clone has that, it can look a little different and do different things with that fire magic. It's a little weird. The final magic is resonance. Resonance is essentially being able to make other people's powers stronger. That's basically it. You have to be either close or touching the person to make their power stronger. When you are giving power to someone else, you can hear their thoughts. You can just basically become one with them for a short period of time. There's more to Piranha's power system, but I don't have all day to record this. So we're going to just leave it there for now. But if you guys want to hear more about Piranha's power system, let me know in the comments. But if you guys want me to talk about stuff like this more, or if you want me to go in more detail with the different classes, let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!